Welcome back to another edition of Chicago Crossing Model Railroad Railcar Reviews. Eric here with you, and today we'll be taking a look at the VTTX 60-foot container flat car from Jacksonville Terminal Company. So I've been waiting quite some time to actually get my hands on one of these models. Jacksonville Terminal Company is a company out of Florida. They primarily make shipping containers, both at HO and at N scale. So it's relatively rare to see anything like rolling stock coming from that company, but they have come out with the 60-foot Pullman flat car in a ton of different variants, and this is actually kind of cool. They have made variations of this model based on from date of manufacturer onward. So for instance, you can find the 60-foot painted as new, or you can find what I have, which is a weathered version and a patched version of the car that goes out 12 plus years post-manufacture of the car. So you get different patching variants, you get different coloration on the car, and they've got a few different variants. I think one is like from 3 to 5 years, one from 5 to 7 or 8, and then beyond. So you can pretty much find whatever variation of this car you want post the date of manufacture in order to run on your railroad based on how you want to actually model it. And that just seems like a really cool idea. And for that reason, and plus just taking a look at some of the photographs, I've really wanted to pick one of these up. So I waited until last week when I could get myself out to Lombard Hobbies, my old Chicago area stomping ground. Picked this up for $40. They retail around $50. If you go onto Jacksonville's website, that is more or less what they have as MSRP. So not a bad discount on what looks to be a highly detailed rolling stock model. So with that, let's go ahead and unbox it and see what this thing looks like. So it comes in a typical jewel case, as you see here. End of the box looks like this. This is the specific model that I have with 70-ton trucks. This is considered 12 plus years from manufacture, so I'm looking for some more interesting patching and maybe other details that fit with that. So let's go ahead, open it up, see what's inside. So basically what we need to do is kind of pull the entire assembly out of here, because it kind of sits in not quite a clamshell, but just a case on top of a case. And just to note inside, we have an explosion diagram of all the different parts. And as you can tell, there's quite a bit that is on here, all of which appears to be separate fittings, including brake hoses, a fair amount of undercarriage detail, etc. Nothing else on the other side. Okay, now let's get to the model. And so opening this up, what you notice is we also have a tiny little bag here, and this appears to be some fittings based on what container size you actually want to fit to this. These cars were fitted to accommodate 20-foot containers, I think 2 of them, or 40-foot and 20-foot, and any number. So it looks like this is probably how you vary that. And anyway, if we take the model out here, it actually feels reasonably heavy for something that is almost entirely hollow. This is actually kind of a cool feature, as you may notice here, where you can see through the car. So it's basically just some, structural pieces, but otherwise does not have a flat bed to it. And, you know, overall impression, this looks really quite cool. Got some decoration on there, a lot of patching looks like, and, you know, kind of typical finish, body mounted couplers, all sorts of stuff. So this actually looks really nice. We'll go ahead and put this on a scale, see what it does in terms of weight, and then we'll take a closer look at some of the details that are on here before we get to our running session. All right, so first we'll talk about weight. So the NMRA standard for a 4.5-inch rail car like this is 1.2 ounces. If we take the unloaded car and place it on the scale, basically we're getting about 0.45 ounces. So as an unloaded car, it's relatively underweight, almost by threefold underneath the typical standard. Just for fun, we'll go ahead and add some containers to this. This is a Jacksonville Terminal Company high cube container. That brings it up to about 0.8. If we throw on two smaller, or a smaller 20-foot, since this could be part of the arrangement, 0.9. And if we just have two small 20-foot containers on there, it rounds out at about 0.75. So with all that in mind, let's have a look at the detail on this model. So we'll go ahead and start with the top. Now, one thing I notice is, you know, even though this is supposed to be kind of a weathered car, the finish has the sort of satin sheen that you would not anticipate on a car that was actually over 12 years old and in service for that time. But, you know, this is not factory weathered, and I honestly think that's fine. I have, you know, discussed before that my opinion on factory weathering is it's great, but I also prefer to make my own artwork, and so I'm never worried that a car that claims to be kind of a 12-plus year paint scheme doesn't show rust spots and all the other stuff. But if we take a further look at the upper deck here, you can see in this case the car comes configured to accommodate what looks to be a 40-foot and a 20-foot container. Now again, you get some extra bits in here that you can apply by removing what's here in order to configure this car to carry what you would like it to carry. In addition to the brackets, what you also have what look to be some plastic stirrups, as well as you know, grab irons up here. I will note that on my model, it looks like I've actually got one that's broken. That's not from handling, that's actually, it just came that way. So the packaging, I don't think, is quite enough to ensure that your model is safe. This is, as always, one of the quality issues that comes with super detailed, very tiny cars. Looking on the sides of the model, you notice a lot of very fine printing on here. All of this is legible, and that's actually really cool. You can see instructions for loading 40-foot containers only on there. And as you can see with the 12-plus year version, you have all sorts of patching on there, as if this car had either been graffitied or, more likely, where they're putting new data on there. And, you know, lastly, you can see a couple of interesting details here with the coupler. So number one is you don't have anything that looks like the usual, you know, trip pin that kind of comes down from the coupler. You do have an air hose, however. It's a kind of sturdy piece of plastic that's basically just glued to the bottom in the open position. What you also notice is the trucks are kind of a unique type. They're 70-ton trucks. I normally think about 100-ton trucks. I don't know that they look quite as detailed as Microtrains trucks, but they do have some nice metal wheels on here. And as you can see, the couplers are body mounted here, so they're away from the trucks. And these are nice wheels. The flanges look like they would fit Code 55 and maybe even smaller track as well. And then lastly, on the underside, again, these are simple cars. They're basically just ribbed platforms for containers. And so what you can see underneath here is you can see a little bit of the brake rigging, and of course the bottom support work that holds the car together. But overall, nice metal wheels, nice car, body mounted couplings, some nice details on there, and with the exception of one breakage, this looks like a really nice model. So I think with that, let's go ahead and take a look at some of the different container configurations that you can have for this car. So I've got a couple of different sets of containers to put on there, including some that are not made by Jacksonville Terminal Company, to see how cross-compatible it is with other common manufacturers of containers, particularly Kato, since they make a ton of different container cars that come with their own containers. So first off, the car came configured to hold a 40 and a 20 together, so we'll go ahead and indulge that configuration. These are both Jacksonville terminal containers. I'll place a 20 in there. I bought this new because I hadn't really had any 20-foot containers. And I've got to say, I really enjoy the detail work that goes into Jacksonville Terminal's containers. They're quite nice. This is another one. This actually comes from my layout, so this is hand weathered. And it goes to show you, you can really increase the personality of one of these cars if you've got some really nice containers to go on them. They can kind of provide the additional color for that car. And so anyway, this is essentially what it looks like in a dual 2040 configuration. That looks really nice. So yeah, not bad. And the load on there is snug. I should say you can kind of turn it any which way, and these will not fall out. They are friction fitting in there, enough to be snug, but not enough to where you're going to have to wrestle with the thing. This is basically looking at like a 40 high cube, another weathered container from the layout. And then we'll take a look at a Kato container. This is another weathered job from the layout. And that fits just fine as well. So you do have nice cross compatibility between container manufacturers, which is honestly the way it should be. The whole idea of container shipping is that it was, easily modular. Well, in this case, that seems to be true. All right, so we'll pull off these containers here. And then we'll dive into the little goodie bag here and see if we can get this set up easily for holding 220-foot. And so just to make a note about these little adapters, they fit in with little round pegs like this. It's again just a friction fit. As you could tell, that came off pretty easily, but not so easily where I'm worried about pulling it off with the containers. So anyway, we'll get this teeny tiny little bag opened here, and we'll dump out the goods. Okay. Eventually. All right, there we go. This is the other fitting here with the edges on there if you want to be fitting multiple 20-foot containers. And so that basically just settles right in. That's an easy fit, and that's nice. I should mention, by the way, that this is the only element of the car that is removable. The one over here is more or less hard point in, so this is actually molded in as opposed to this one, which is not. So anyway, with that in place, basically what we can do is take a couple of 20-footers, and I'm just going to put them on both ends just for the love of symmetry and see how they fit in. And they fit in real good. So yeah, that's a nice look. All right, so with that in mind, let's go ahead and get this onto the layout and have a running session and see how it performs on some real track. All right, welcome back. We are on the layout here with the Jacksonville Terminal Company Pullman Standard VTTX 60-foot container flat car. And as you can see, I've loaded it up with a 40-foot container. And today what we're going to do is we are going to take this container, which has a bunch of new die casting equipment, over to Finkel Steel. As it turns out, back in the day there was at least one instance of a container car not unlike this being delivered to Finkel, specifically containing a bunch of machining equipment. So in keeping with the time period, we're going to go ahead and couple this up to a Milwaukee Road switcher that was historically the railroad that serviced Finkel. So we'll back this up a little bit, see if we got a good coupling here. Man, that's a good looking train. Just need to weather that switcher at some point. And no, we did not. The love of N scale. All right, let's give it another shot and see exactly what's happening. As you can see, it's really just a matter of the mass of the car. The couplers are connecting, but they're just not actuating. So a little bit of a push on there, and we are coupled up and ready to go. So we'll turn on the sound and head on our way.